to Boss Life. I am your host, Ebony, your favorite go-to life coach. Thank you guys again for joining us this week. We are talking about part 2 of entitlement. So I know a few weeks ago we talked about part 1, how to recognize entitlement and how to deal with it and get over it. But this week I'm going to be a little bit more structured in my podcast and give you guys some help and tips on how to recognize if you do have these tendencies and how to really just work on them and get over them, okay? Because that's really important. Like, we don't want to be that person. Remember, that's what we talked about. So just to recap a few things that we talked about a couple of weeks ago on how to recognize if you have tendencies of entitlement. So one is you expect other people to be more interested in you and what's going on with your agenda than interested in them and what's going on in their agenda. That's really not okay. In a friend, a sibling, a spouse, anything, like those characteristics are just not okay. Another one is you disregard rules that are intended for everyone's comfort. For example, you ignore signs asking you to please not put your feet on the chair at the movies. Like something simple, but you know if someone's in front of you and you put your feet on the chair, it's going to annoy the freak out of them. Like, you know, that's just entitled. Like, you can't think that rules apply to other people that don't apply to you. Another thing is you freeload. For example, you use taunting programs to download movies rather than paying for them. You know, that's just something simple that I could think of. Like, I'm trying not to make it too personal, but anything that you feel obligated to or that you feel like something is obligated to you that shouldn't be is definitely an entitlement characteristic. So just one more. Let's just do one more. So let's just say you're working on a group project at work and you think you should be the leader or get the most credit just because of who you are by virtue. Like, not because you did the most work, not because you feel like you have the best characteristics to lead the team, but you just want the credit or you want to be the leader just by virtue of who you are. So those are things that we definitely want to work towards not being, okay? And I'm going to give you a few steps to help you not be this person. So don't get me wrong. In a sense, we all have this to a certain degree. For example, it is perfectly normal to expect others to treat us as though we are individuals with a heart and a brain. Still, that expectation doesn't always translate into us getting what we want. So as an adult, you know, it's okay to understand that everybody knows you, respects you, loves you, but they don't have to treat you any differently than they have to treat others. And women, don't get me wrong. So I know as women, we have been conditioned to believe that our needs and wants somehow are bad. I know that sometimes we can give and give and give, but we're afraid to ask, even if it's the most basic things that we need. So sometimes we're at risk of being abused in every way because we are afraid to say no to people about anything and everything. But we feel that we don't deserve things like love, safety, happiness, and then we put other people's needs before ours. And so we allow people to be entitled in our lives. But hear me and please, please, please understand me. Expecting certain things is very healthy, okay? I'm not saying that we should feel like we're above other people or beneath other people. So we have to have that balance. So what really matters is that you don't automatically assume the world is going to give you these things. It is also important to understand that these things are everyone, or these things that everyone should have, not just you, and you will be willing to give to others what you expect from them as well. So we can't always expect for others to go above and beyond for us and we not do it for them. But I know as women, sometimes we do the opposite. So don't allow people to feel entitled in your life. Don't allow people to feel entitled to your time, entitled to your pocket, you know, your coins. Like, they're not entitled to everything that you have. But also realize, as women, I know sometimes we can get a superiority mentality as well, and we feel like we're above others. And so we feel like some rules don't apply to us. And we feel like by virtue of who we are, you know, that we should get what we want when we want it. And I understand that, trust me, because I am an only child. So being raised as an only child, I understand being spoiled. But there's a big, big difference in being spoiled and just self-centered and entitled. And speaking of children, that is pretty much where entitlement starts. Children who are never told no or who have parents give in to every demand growing up believe that's how life will work everywhere, all around. Like, these kids learn that with enough confusion and manipulation, they will get their way. And that's just not reality, guys. And we're setting our kids up for failure. And so we're setting our kids up to grow up to be adults who feel entitled to life. And then really, I believe a lot of criminals are the most entitled because they feel like they can go out there and they can do whatever they want to do and take whatever they want to take, and there are no consequences. And so that's how we end up with so many felonies and charges. And so, like, I'm not saying you're raising criminals, but you're borderline are. Okay, so just realize when you're not telling your kids no, you're setting them up for someone else to tell them no, and then you're setting your child up to make their way through life, and you don't want that. Like, you want us to be able to stand on our own, yes, and give them independency, but you don't want your child to grow up and say, no, I'm going to go out and take whatever I want at any means necessary, because that's not how really life is. So, just realize that when you're raising these kids, that I understand all homes aren't alike, and I do understand that all parenting styles aren't alike, but there should be a common ground of respect in every home. And that's what we should definitely be teaching our children. But I think that's lacking a lot in this generation, but that's a whole other podcast. So one step that we can use to help deal with entitled people, adults in life, is don't nourish it, okay? Even if you give the entitled person what they ask for, don't, unless it is something that you absolutely don't mind doing. For example, your boss demands you to pick up their lunch. If you happen to go out to that particular place yourself, say, yes, sure. But since I'm already going there, I will. But if not, be willing to say no. It is an inconvenience. So allow people to know that it's an inconvenience for you, but always make sure that you're doing what you want to do. Don't just do what people ask you to do, or do what they want you to do, okay? So 2, give a hand up, not a hand out. Ask yourself if doing what the person demands is actually going to help them learn to do things for themselves. Say your siblings lost their job and apartment and demands you let them stay with you. You don't want to see them on the streets. Of course not. But if you say yes, however, you don't leave it at that. Give them a time limit and set expectations on how you want them to work towards becoming independent. Just like our children, we want them to become independent. So we teach them and we show them boundaries. But it's the same way with adults. You have to give boundaries with adults. Let them know that you aren't going to do their laundry, paying for their smoking habits, or letting them live their individual lives. Like, allow them to have that identity separately from yours, even if they're staying with you. Okay, so that's just 2. So without them contributing in some way, even if it's helping with chores or walking the dog, they should be contributing in some kind of way, even if they move in with you. So give a hand up, not a hand out. Don't nourish the entitlement. Let people know that it's an inconvenience for you. This is a big one. Practice assertiveness. Be willing to say no and then stick with it. Don't cave in and don't allow yourself to be used. You deserve fair treatment, and it is up to you to make that known. Again, make sure it's known that it's an inconvenience, even if they're moving in with you, even if you're going out for lunch. Let me let you know something like, yes, I'm going that way. If it's not in my way, then I'm probably not going. But you're more than welcome to get something that I'm going to get. Simple. You don't have to be mean about it. You don't have to be overpowering and overbearing about it. Just say, hey, this is not, we don't have to go through the spiel, but you guys know, like, be able to say no and stick with your no, even when raising your children. 4, don't get caught up in arguing. Arguing is a way that entitled people try to bully others. I am not a very good arguer, so I do not argue with people. I just let people do what they want to do and say what they want to say, and then I walk off because I know what I'm going to do. But anyway, so don't get caught up in arguing with people. Say no. That's how entitled people show or try to bully others. So say no, then walk away. The silent treatment is one thing most entitled people cannot stand to deal with. And I know that from experience, because I will shut down in a minute and I don't care. I don't care about you throwing a temper tantrum. All right, number 5, call them out with respect. Calmly state that you feel the request is unfair to you and that you don't appreciate being talked to in the manner that the person is speaking to you. Explain that you have your own needs and to be considered, and that they are incorrect in expecting others to do what they should do and be doing for them. So some people truly don't understand how they are coming across, and that is okay too. Like, everybody isn't raised the same way. We've already talked about that. So, sometimes people do overstate and overstep their boundaries, but sometimes it's not always entitlement. Sometimes people just don't understand how they're coming across. And if you explain it to them, then sometimes they will straighten up and fly right, as my grandmother would say. But entitled people won't. So you always have to put entitled people in their place. Last but not least, and I know that dealing with entitled mentality people are normally 9 times out of 10 people that are very close to us. So my last point is going to be set boundaries, and not set boundaries for other people, but set boundaries for yourself. Know your limitations, know what you can and can't do, know what you're willing to do and doesn't want to do. And there is a difference. Like sometimes I am willing to do a little bit extra, even though I don't want to do it for people that I love. And that is okay. But it's not okay for people to abuse you and take advantage of you just because of who you are and because of who they are. They expect it. So that's my last point for you guys. Just set boundaries for yourself, not for other people. Because regardless of you setting boundaries for other people, they're not going to respect them. Especially entitled people. Like they don't have the capacity and the mindset to even respect themselves, which is why they feel entitled. So you can't set boundaries for people like that. You have to set boundaries for yourself. All right, guys. So you know what I always say: if you don't do you, then you won't be done. So make sure that you do that this week, okay? Thank you guys so much for joining us. Wherever you're joining us from, I really appreciate you guys' love, support, and comments. Make sure that you like, share, and comment. And just do whatever you want to do this week because you deserve to do whatever you want to do this week, okay? I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.